Hi, I'm Olivia, and Mila's around here somewhere. And today we are talking about, we're getting ready for Christmas, and we're talking about the book, The Thief of Always by Clive Barker. Now, it's kind of a story how I got this book. I've always loved Kid Lit. You know, my mom was a youth services librarian, and she would bring her books home for us to read, and for her to read, and I would read them too, and I just really loved them. So when I found out that Clive Barker had written a kid's book, I went to my mom and I'm like, I want this book. Please give it to me for Christmas. Well, just a little before Christmas, my mom calls me and says, I got that book that you wanted for Thomas. And I'm like, it wasn't for Thomas, it was for me. She's like, why would you want that book? I'm like, it sounds interesting. It's a kid book, and you know, I like that sort of thing. So anyway, so she cut the price tag out of it. She was a librarian, so she got them for basically for cost, so she didn't pay that for it. So I don't know why she did that. So anyhow, this book is one of my comfort reads. Hello, Mila, come on up. Come on. This book is one of my comfort reads, so I've read it a bunch of times. But strangely enough, hello, please stop licking my face. The one thing is that, well, we'll talk about that when we get there. But it's still one of my comfort reads. I read it pretty frequently. I read it every couple of years. Hello. So, Harvey Swick is 10. He is also bored. It's February, and he's certain that this month will be the death of him. Then he meets Rictus. Rictus, which is a wide smile, has a disturbingly wide grin, and offers to take him to a place where it's never boring. Harvey doesn't take Rictus up on it immediately, but he does take him up on it. Rictus leads Harvey through a part of town that Harvey knows, and then into an area that's unfamiliar to him. Being February, all the weather is gray and dull. Eventually they reach a wall of fog. After passing through the wall of fog, they arrive at a house, and the house is enjoying a fine summer day. This is Holiday House. Harvey meets Wendell, another boy about his age, and Lulu, a girl also about the same age, and Mrs. Griffin, who looks to be his grandmother's grandmother in age. Mrs. Griffin is the cook for the household. Lulu explains that Rictus has 2 brothers and a sister, although actually it's 3 total siblings. The brother isn't really... Anyway. And that Harvey will probably meet at least some of those other siblings. She says she's been in Holiday House longer than Wendell, but not as long as Mrs. Griffin. When Harvey tells Lulu that he won't be able to stay long because his parents will be looking for him, she explains that his parents sent him to Holiday House and suggests he call them. He does, and his parents explain they knew he needed a break and to enjoy his time at Holiday House. Mrs. Griffin takes Harvey to his room, and he goes immediately to sleep and wakes up the next morning. When he gets up, the weather's spring-like, and Wendell's building a treehouse. The 2 boys work on the treehouse the rest of the morning. Wendell tells Harvey that Lulu used to be fun, but she's become distractible lately. At lunch, one of Mrs. Griffin's cats, Clue Cat, dies as a result of a combination of factors. Wendell decides he wants to have lunch outside and just leaves the house. But Harvey is really crushed by the poor cat's demise. Eventually, he goes outside and finds the weather has become summery, and Wendell wants to sit and read. Harvey decides he wants to visit the lake. He goes alone and finds Lulu staring into the depths of the lake. When she realizes he's here, she takes off into the woods. Harvey gets his first real look at the lake, which seems to be stagnant and is inhabited by these disturbing gray fish, almost as large as Harvey. Harvey returns to Wendell, and Wendell tells him to decide what he wants to be for Halloween, because Halloween happens every night. Wendell decides to be a hangman, and Harvey wants to be a vampire. They get dressed up, and Wendell tells Harvey that the trick-or-treating route goes from the front of the house to the back, which magically becomes a longer walk than it is the rest of the time. While walking, Wendell disappears, and Harvey ends up looking for him by the treehouse, where Wendell has set up a dummy with a pumpkin head to scare Harvey. They return to Holiday House, where Mrs. Griffin has made Thanksgiving dinner for them. Wendell tells Harvey to make a wish for his Christmas present. Harvey wishes for a Noah's Ark set that his father made for him in his early childhood, and that got lost. When Christmas arrives, Mr. Hood gives Harvey the very Noah's Ark set that he had in his childhood. Harvey takes the Ark down to the pond, where he falls into the water and loses the Ark all over again. Things go on like this for several more days, until Rictus suggests that Harvey pay Wendell back for his practical joke on Halloween. Rictus introduces Harvey to Mar, the sister of the sibling group. Mar and Rictus encourage Harvey to replay his fantasy of being a vampire, only Mar physically changes Harvey into a vampire. That night, Harvey menaces Wendell, and Wendell, not recognizing Harvey, offers Harvey an exchange if he will spare Wendell. The next day, both Lulu and Wendell are missing. When Harvey sees Wendell again, Wendell is trying desperately to get out of the lands. The 2 boys head to the grounds. The 2 boys head into the mist, but keep getting turned around, ending up back at the house. Harvey tells Wendell to pretend like they're resigned to staying, while Harvey tries to figure out how to get out. Harvey talks to Mrs. Griffin, who indicates that Harvey and Wendell are prisoners. She admits that she is as well, and tells him that if he tries to escape, the final sibling, Karna, will come after them. She also tells them that Mr. Hood is dead. Harvey slips Wendell a note saying they'll try to escape at midnight, hoping that whatever runs the house will be asleep by then. They go through the day pretending that everything is normal. They pretend to be having fun during Halloween, and they pretend to enjoy opening their Christmas presents. As Harvey starts to leave, he finds out what happened to Lulu. Wow, this is the first of the spoilers here, so here you go. Lulu tells him not to look at her and returns 3 figurines from the Noah's Ark set to him. He finally peeks and sees that Lulu's turning into a fish. Remember those giant fish in the lake? Yep, apparently they're kids who stayed too long. Now, back to another minute of more non-spoilery stuff before the real spoilers begin. Harvey and Wendell join up and begin to walk through the mist. They hold hands and walk through the mist, and Karna chases him until Mrs. Griffin sends Blue Cat to lead them off the grounds. Now, the final spoiler warning. When they emerge from the mist, they find themselves back in their hometown. Karna, who followed them, is gravely injured and slinks back into the grounds of Holiday House, and Blue Cat watches like he's behind a fence of mist. They walk back to the center of town, and there they party, each their own home. The end. Not hardly. This is where the good part begins. Harvey's slightly disoriented on his way home. He passes through some fancy neighborhoods and some rundown ones, none of which look familiar, but eventually he returns to his own neighborhood and his own front door. He knocks and is not surprised when it takes a while for him to get to the door, since by then it's late at night. Eventually an old man answers the door, and at first Harvey thinks he has the wrong house, but when the lady of the house comes to the door, he recognizes her. His mother, only much older now. You see, each day at Holiday House was a full year. The hours of Springtown were a condensed version of the months of springtime going on outside. The brief time of Halloween was the full day of Halloween outside. So Harvey's been gone for 31 years, and the fish were the kids whose souls Hood had taken. He tells his parents what happened and how he spoke to someone who he thought was his parents on the phone several times. His father has difficulty believing it, but his mother accepts it wholeheartedly. The 3 of them search for Holiday House for several days to no avail. When Harvey's dad goes to get the police, Harvey sees Wendell, who is totally destroyed by the loss of time. His parents are divorced, and his mother has drowned her sorrows in food. Together, the boys decide they need to return to Holiday House to get their lost time back. When they return, Wendell falls under the house's spell again, but Harvey's on a mission. He sends Rictus up after some presents he left behind, and then goes in search of Mrs. Griffin. Stu Cat, the last survivor of Mrs. Griffin's 3 cats, Hood had Blue Cat murdered, leads Harvey to a coffin in the basement, and after breaking the lock on the coffin, he finds Mrs. Griffin inside. She finally tells Harvey some of the story. You see, she was the first child to come to Holiday House. She was running away from home after her cat died, and her father refused to give her another one. She aged an old lady quickly and then just lived. Mrs. Griffin was afraid of death when she finally arrived, but she's had too much of life and would like to die finally. Mara attempts to trap Harvey and Mrs. Griffin in the basement, but Harvey says that since Holiday House makes your dreams come true, maybe it could do that for Mara as well. And upon that suggestion, Mara's dreams do come true. She doesn't have dreams, and she melts away to nothing. Next, Jive, who I didn't mention before, apparently he did make a big impression on me. That's the final sibling, tries to get Harvey to eat something. Harvey says he knows that what the food is, meaning just dust and ashes, but Jive thinks that Harvey's saying the food is poisoned. In order to convince Harvey that it's not poisoned, Jive eats some, and since both the food and Jive are dust and ashes, it reminds Jive of what he really is, and Jive returns to the dust he actually is. Harvey goes to the attic in search of Hood, and while there he finds Karna, who is still gravely injured from Harvey and Wendell's earlier escape. Harvey sees lights floating upwards, and that leads them to look up. He sees Hood's face spread across the ceiling of the roof. You see, Hood is the house itself. One review I read of this book said that the image of the dust jacket is too much of a spoiler, and I kind of see that, but there's a little bit of a misdirection in the form of the treehouse, where Harvey and Wendell spend so much time, and which is one of the first things Wendell thinks of when he falls back under Hood's spell. I do wonder what the current dust jacket looks like. I'll have to look that up. Anyway, Harvey shows Karna kindness, which releases it, and it falls apart into dry, dusty bones. And that leaves us our final 2 adversaries, Rictus and Hood. Rictus comes to Harvey with an offer of anything he wants, except, of course, his freedom. So Harvey, remembering how much he enjoyed being a vampire, decides that will be what he will do. He will drain Hood. He begins making increasingly demanding requests from Hood, first in Noah's Ark with living animals, going to flowers everywhere but no two alike, and escalating from there. Finally, he requests all of the seasons at once, which destroys the house, setting Mrs. Griffin free. And she basically, she kind of like ascends, basically. The lake forms a whirlpool and begins to drain. The fish turn back into the children they were originally. Lulu returns, and Wendell even comes out from under his enchantment. Yay! But wait, there's more. Don't forget about Rictus. Rictus tells the kids that he stole a bit of Hood's magic, and he intends to become the new Mr. Hood. Hood isn't quite as gone as we'd hoped, and here's Rictus saying this. He demands that Rictus pour the magic onto the ground where the house once stood. When Rictus, who still fears Hood, does so, Hood returns, only instead of being a house who's a person, he rises a person made from pieces of a house. After Hood kills Rictus, Lulu and Harvey trick Hood into going into what's left of the lake, and he goes down into wherever the water from the lake is going. At this point, the magic starts to really dissipate. The kids gather at the wall of mist to say goodbye. Wendell tells Harvey that if they go home, Wendell will be several years older than Harvey is, but Harvey says he'll recognize Wendell no matter how big their age difference is. Then Lulu and Harvey take each other's hands, and by their third steps, Harvey's walking alone. This time, Harvey has to rely on two strangers to get him home, but get home he does, though he has no memory of how. When he wakens in his own bed at night, he hears his parents talking downstairs. He fears what he will find, but when he comes downstairs, he finds that his parents are the age they should be. He explains what happens and takes them to the site of Holiday House, which is now just an open grassy area full of people enjoying the beautiful day. Harvey's parents aren't sure if they should believe him, but then an adult man comes up and tells them that what Harvey is saying is the truth, and indicates a woman in a white dress with a broad-brimmed hat at the bottom of the hill. The man tells Harvey that she doesn't want him to see her as she is now, but to remember as she was, and that she hopes to be as good a husband to her as Harvey was a friend. Harvey says that it must be Lulu, but the man neither confirms nor denies this. Harvey and his parents return home, and how Harvey vows never to take time for granted again. Now for the Christmassy part. Because it is a seasonal book, because it goes through all the holidays. I do love the last paragraph here. With apologies to Clive Barker for reading this. Time would always be precious from now on. It would tick by, of course, as it always had, but Harvey was determined he wouldn't waste it with sighs and complaints. He'd fill every moment with the seasons he'd found in his hearts. Hopes like birds on a spring branch, happiness like a warm summer, magic like the rising mists of autumn, and best of all, love. Love enough for 1,000 Christmases. Merry Christmas.